They said the watch cost $18,000. They said it went missing between security and baggage. They said she was the only one working that shift. She said she never touched it. No footage. No evidence. Just her skin, her silence, and her shift schedule. They fired her. Blacklisted her. Called her a thief. 2 days later, she was in handcuffs. Her daughter was 5 years old. Subscribe and tell us where you're watching us from. Nia Cole was halfway through her shift at Terminal B when the supervisor called her over. "We need to speak with you." No smile. No context. Just that flat tone every airport worker recognized. She wiped her hands on her pants, stepped out from behind the baggage counter, and followed him through the gray hallway behind Gate 12. Inside the staff conference room sat 2 men she didn't recognize. Both in suits. One white. One black. Both cold. "Ms. Cole," the white one said. "I'm with Airport Investigations. This is Officer Lanning from Transit Police. Please sit." Nia blinked. "What's going on?" "A watch was reported missing off a passenger's luggage this morning. Rolex. Estimated value, $18,000. Nia raised her eyebrows. "And?" "It was last scanned through your checkpoint." "I never touched any watch." The black officer leaned forward. "We're not accusing you. Yet." She sat straighter. "So why am I here?" The investigator flipped open a folder. Inside, her shift schedule, ID photo, and a still image from a security camera. It showed her standing beside a luggage cart. Nothing in her hands. "This is you?" "Obviously. You're the only employee logged on that shift between 5:45 and 6:20 a.m. There were 3 TSA agents with me. They've been cleared." Nia's mouth went dry. "Based on what?" No answer. "I didn't take anything," she said firmly. The investigator closed the file. "That's what we're trying to determine." The officer nodded once. "You're being placed on temporary leave. Effective immediately." "Wait, what?" "Internal review pending." Nia stood. "You have no proof. No footage. No witness. Nothing." They didn't blink. "You may leave now, Miss Cole." At home, her 5-year-old daughter, Kaya, waited with her backpack on. "Mommy, are we late for daycare?" Nia knelt, forcing a smile. "Not today, baby. Mommy's staying home for a bit." Kaya tilted her head. "Are you in trouble?" Nia hugged her tight. "Not if I can help it." But even as she said it, her phone buzzed. New voicemail. It was from HR. "Ms. Cole, we regret to inform you that your employment is terminated effective today. Security will escort you if you return to the premises. No hearing. No defense. No facts. Just a closed door. And one missing watch." Nia stared at her kitchen wall for nearly an hour. Kaya played quietly in the living room. Cartoons on mute. She still hadn't told her mother. Or her sister. Or anyone. Who would believe her? She hadn't stolen anything. She hadn't even known there was a Rolex. But now she was unemployed. Branded. Alone. And the silence from HR told her everything she needed to know. She wasn't under review. She was already condemned. The first knock came at 3:41 p.m. A plain sedan. 2 men. "Miss Cole?" "Detective Marsden, Port Authority. Can we talk?" She opened the door slowly, keeping her body between them and Kaya. "About what?" "The watch. We're following up on your interview." "That wasn't an interview. That was an ambush." The second man, younger, held a tablet. "Do you consent to a voluntary walkthrough of your apartment? Do you have a warrant?" "No." "Then no." Marsden nodded. "Mind if we ask some questions?" She exhaled, stepped outside, pulled the door closed behind her. They stood on the porch. Marsden tapped his notepad. "Have you had any recent large deposits?" "No." "Do you own any luxury items?" "I'm a baggage tech." "What do you think?" "Anyone visit your station that morning?" "TSA. Ground crew. Passengers." "Anyone unusual?" She narrowed her eyes. "You mean anyone black?" He didn't answer. She folded her arms. "Are we done?" The younger one tried again. "You were the last hands near the bag. I never opened it." "Can you prove that?" "Can you prove I did?" They looked at each other, then nodded. "We'll be in touch." That night, her bank app glitched. She tried to transfer $40 to pay a daycare fee. Transaction declined. She called the hotline. After 5 minutes on hold, "Ms. Cole, your account has been flagged for irregular activity." "What activity?" "We can't disclose that at this time." She felt the walls shrink. The next morning, she walked Kaya to the corner park. As they played, she noticed her neighbor across the street. Mr. Havers. Retired. Ex-Air Force. He was watching her. not waving, just watching. When she met his eyes, he looked away. Later, her phone buzzed again. Unknown number. She let it go to voicemail. MS. Cole, this is Officer Brent. We'd like you to come in for formal questioning regarding an active theft investigation. Failure to appear may result in escalation. Nia sat on the edge of the bed. Kaya ran circles around her stuffed animals. And Nia realized something chilling. She hadn't been arrested, but she was already treated like a criminal. The precinct was cold, sterile. They didn't cuff her, didn't read her rights. Because this wasn't an arrest. It was a voluntary statement. The door clicked shut behind her. Two officers sat across the table. Detective Marsden and a woman in plain clothes. No introductions this time. Just a recorder light blinking red. Miss Cole, do you understand that this conversation is being recorded? Nia nodded. Yes. Marsden leaned forward. Walk us through the morning of the 14th. She took a breath. I clocked in at 5:42. Took my position at Terminal B. First bag scan at 5:45. I stayed in rotation until 6:30. Any breaks? No. Did you leave your station? Only to reset a conveyor jam. Logged at 6:03. Who else was with you? Agent Chu. And Ms. Logan from security. The woman across the table scribbled something. Agent Chu reported seeing you step away from the loading zone for 2 minutes unaccounted. That's false. I walked 3 feet to the printer. It logs every label. Marsden raised an eyebrow. That printer's memory was wiped. Nia stared. By who? You tell us. She shook her head. I didn't touch the server. Silence. Miss Cole, do you have any debts? Loans? Pressure? I'm a single mom. That's pressure enough. Do you gamble? No. Have you pawned anything recently? No. The woman leaned forward now. Have you ever handled high-value items? I work in baggage. I've touched everything from wedding dresses to rifles. Marsden's voice hardened. But never stole? She didn't blink. Never. He stood. That'll be all. The woman stopped the recording. One more thing. She slid a photo across the table. It was grainy, blurry. A woman, profile view, in a hoodie outside a pawn shop. Is this you? Nia squinted. No. That woman's taller. And that hoodie's not mine. You sure? Yes. They looked at each other. The moment stretched. Then the woman said, You're free to go. Free, but not safe. Outside, Nia sat in her car for 10 minutes before driving. Her hands trembled on the wheel. She didn't go home. She drove to the grocery store. Bought 2 frozen dinners, a pack of juice boxes, and tissues. At checkout, her card declined again. The cashier stared. Nia paid with quarters and crumpled bills from her glove box. When she stepped back outside, a cruiser rolled slowly past. Didn't stop. Just watched. Because even without charges, without arrest, without court, she was already marked. Nia checked her email for the 10th time that morning. Still nothing. No apology from the airport. No retraction from HR. No word from the union rep. She tried to log into her employee portal again. Access denied. Kaya sat at the table coloring. Mommy, can we go back to the library? Nia smiled faintly. Soon, baby. She didn't tell her that they'd already revoked her airport access badge. That her name had been flagged in the system. That even library check-ins now felt like surveillance. At noon, her sister called. I just wanted to check on you. Nia exhaled. I'm fine. Pause. Listen, we were gonna have a cookout this weekend. You're still welcome, of course, but some folks are nervous. Nia's stomach turned. Nervous about what? You know how people talk. I know you didn't take anything, but... The silence said the rest. Nia hung up. Later that day, she walked Kaya to daycare. The front desk staff didn't smile this time. The director pulled her aside. Miss Cole, I wanted to touch base about Kaya. What about her? Just a reminder that tuition is still due for next week. And if you're facing instability, we understand. Nia's jaw tightened. My daughter's not unstable. Of course not. But we do prioritize consistency. Nia nodded slowly. She understood. They were preparing to push her out. On the walk home, she noticed a flyer taped to a lamppost. Have you seen this Rolex? Photo of the watch. The terminal. A reward number. She stood there for a long time. People passed by. One woman glanced at Nia, then at the flyer, then looked away. Nia kept walking. That night, she turned off every light in the house and sat on the floor. Kaya slept upstairs, and Nia cried for the first time since it started. Not from guilt, but from the weight of being presumed guilty. from knowing that even silence was seen as evidence. That walking outside with her head high made her look defiant, and walking with her head low made her look ashamed. She couldn't win. She wasn't even playing anymore. She was surviving. And survival had never felt this small. The next morning, a letter came in the mail. No return address. Inside, a printed copy of her police interview transcript. No note. No warning. Just the words. Subject remains a person of interest. Observation continues. They weren't charging her. They were watching her. Nia sat in front of her laptop for 3 hours. She had no investigator, no lawyer, no money. But she had memory. And she had questions. She started with the flight manifest. She remembered the gate, the flight number, the time. It had been a morning departure to Chicago. She searched the airport site, pulled the archived manifest, cross-referenced with the reported theft time. 38 passengers. 1 business class. She wrote down the seat numbers. Then she looked up news reports. Only one article had covered the Rolex theft, a blog post with a blurry photo of the missing watch. But in the comments, someone had written, "Serves him right." That man screamed at staff over his bag. Nia froze. Someone had seen it. She clicked the user profile. Anonymous. But the IP was partially visible, masked, but still traceable. She copied the thread. Saved screenshots. The next day, she returned to the airport. She couldn't enter. Her badge had been revoked. But she stood outside Terminal B, pretending to wait for a ride. She watched the rhythms. Security rotations. Camera placement. Blind spots. She noticed something strange. The camera that would have shown her area that morning? It had been removed. The wiring still dangled from the ceiling above the exit lane. Someone had taken it down. Recently. She took a picture, then walked away. That night, she sat on her porch. A dark sedan idled across the street. Same one from 2 nights ago. She stood, didn't move, just stared at it. Eventually, the engine revved, and it rolled away. Not fast. Just enough to say, "We're here." Nia went back inside and opened a blank document. She began writing. What happened at Terminal B? Names. Times. Questions no one asked. She saved it. Titled it, "If I Disappear." Then she printed 2 copies and hid them in different places. She wasn't paranoid. She was careful. Because if they thought she was alone, they were wrong. She wasn't strong. Not yet. But she was awake now. And that meant something. At 1:12 a.m., someone knocked on her door. Once. Then twice. She didn't answer. Didn't breathe. The knock didn't return. But when she checked the doorknob the next morning, a scratch mark was carved into the brass. 3 vertical lines. She didn't know what they meant. But she knew one thing. They weren't done. And now? Neither was she. Nia spent the morning at the public library. She took a seat by the window. Watched the reflection in the glass. Behind her, 2 men entered 20 minutes apart. Didn't speak. Didn't check out books. Just sat. Watching. She opened her email. Still no response from HR. Still no apology. But a new message sat in her spam folder. Subject, "Your claim has been denied." From the airport's third-party insurance group. She opened it. The text was cold, legal, final. Due to the lack of conclusive evidence, we are unable to proceed with reimbursement or internal investigation at this time. No mention of her name. No mention of a process. Just a wall. She closed the tab, then opened another. She remembered something. Every lost item complaint created a bag trace. Each trace triggered a digital log, and she had logged hundreds over the years. She still had access to her old training materials. She used them to backdoor into the public claim portal, entered a mock trace ID, then modified the URL path manually. Line by line, she rebuilt the lookup script. And finally, a trace ID hashtag 118702. B. Rolex, gold, custom engraved, reported 6:24 a.m. Status, investigation open, staff review initiated by supervisor, R. Elkins. Her breath caught. Elkins. Her direct supervisor. He had told her nothing was official yet, but he'd submitted the complaint hours before she was called into the office. She took screenshots, then searched his name and flight perks. Found a personal itinerary to Atlanta. First class. Departure date, the same night of the theft. Paid in cash. Through the airport's employee benefit system. She took another screenshot, then leaned back in her chair. The men behind her stood up. Left together. She didn't look. Didn't flinch. She saved the files to 2 drives. One taped under her porch steps. The other mailed to herself, certified, sealed. That night, she wrote a single line in her new journal. If I go down, he goes first. She wasn't threatening. She wasn't bluffing. She was recording. At 2:06 a.m., Kaya woke up crying. Nia ran to her room. What's wrong, baby? There was a noise. In my window. Nia checked. Nothing there. But on the outer frame, someone had dragged their finger across the glass. A line. Then another. Like they wanted her to know. They'd been that close. Nia stood outside the regional news station at 8:15 a.m. No makeup. No lawyer. No press release. Just a manila envelope in her hand. Inside, copies of the trace log, the flight manifest, Elkin's travel record, and a printout of her own termination letter. All time-stamped. All clean. She didn't ask for airtime. She handed it to the front desk clerk. For the investigative unit. No name. She left before they could ask questions. Back home, Kaya was watching cartoons. Nia sat on the floor beside her, folding laundry. The TV played bright colors, but Nia wasn't watching. She was waiting. At 10:42 a.m., her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Voicemail. She played it twice. Ms. Cole, we received your materials. Please confirm you sent them. If so, we'd like to speak. Off the record. She didn't reply. Not yet. Instead, she drove to a notary office and signed a letter of custody for Kaya, naming her sister as guardian in case of emergency. Then mailed a sealed envelope to her sister's house. Inside, a drive. A key. A list of names. She wasn't being dramatic. She was being realistic. At 6:12 p.m., she went outside to bring in the trash bin. Her front porch light flickered once, then died. She paused, then saw it. On her windshield. Another envelope. No postage. No name. Just the word, enough. Inside, a printed screenshot from the pawn shop camera. The same blurry photo from the interview. Only now it was edited. Brightness lowered. Face distorted. A crude arrow drawn over it with marker. Nia Cole, written in red. No police seal. No initials. Just a message. She looked around. No car. No person. Just air. That night, she called Dana, her old co-worker from airport compliance. They hadn't spoken in over a year. I need you to listen. She explained everything. The trace. The suppression. The threats. Dana didn't interrupt once. Finally, she said, you realize what you're doing? I'm proving they picked the wrong person to corner. Pause. I still have admin login. For 2 days. I'll check what I can. Thank you. But Nia? Yeah? Be careful. You're not just a suspect anymore. What am I? A liability. Nia hung up. Then turned off all lights. Checked the locks. Checked on Kaya. Then sat in the dark, staring at her front door. She didn't know when they'd come. But she knew now. They were afraid of her. And that meant she was getting close. The next morning, Dana texted one word. Found. No explanation. No detail. Nia waited. At 11:12 a.m., a file arrived. Password protected. She opened it on her offline laptop. Inside were 2 documents. The first, a maintenance request form for Terminal B, submitted the day before the theft. It ordered temporary deactivation of camera 14B, the exact camera that would have shown her handling the bag. Requester, Supervisor R. Elkins. Reason, power interference. No signature. No authorization. Just a timestamp. The second file was worse. An internal email chain, partially redacted. Subject line, containment options employee exposure. Lines included. She's pushing back. No video, no confession. Can we fast-track an NDA route? PR risk if this leaks. Nia stared at the screen. She felt sick. They knew. They knew she hadn't done it. And they were trying to silence her anyway. She copied the files to 3 drives. One she buried under the backyard shed. One she hid inside Kaya's stuffed bear. One she taped under the rear seat of her car. If anything happened now, the story wouldn't disappear with her. It would multiply. That night, she got a call. Unknown number. No voicemail. Then a second. Then a third. At 2:07 a.m., her front window cracked. Not shattered, just a thin, diagonal fracture like a silent warning. She didn't move. She wrote it down. Added it to the file. Next to the scratched doorknob. Next to the anonymous envelope. Next to the letter that called her person of interest. They weren't arresting her. They were trying to erase her. Quietly. Professionally. But not cleanly. because Nia had made sure every clue they left stayed documented. The next morning, she mailed another envelope, this one to an airport union rep. Inside, copies of the shutdown order, the email chain, and a cover note. If anything happens to me or my daughter, you'll be asked why you stayed silent. She didn't sign her name. She didn't have to. Later, Kaya climbed into her lap. Mommy? Yeah? Are we okay? Nia kissed her forehead. Not yet. But we will be. She looked at the window. The crack still there. The fear still growing. But so was the proof. We will, she whispered. We will. On Tuesday morning, Nia walked into the public library again. Same table. Same window. This time, she brought a flash drive, a legal pad, and a prepaid SIM card phone. She opened a browser and uploaded the files. Not to social media, not to press, but to 3 specific inboxes. A journalist who'd once exposed corruption in the city's parking authority, a city councilwoman with a history of whistleblower support, and a nonprofit legal group known for civil rights litigation. The subject line was the same. She didn't steal it. They did. Attached were the falsified camera report, the trace log showing Elkin's override, the internal emails about containment, her own termination notice, photos of the scratch marks, the cracked window, and the enough envelope. She included no personal statement, just a single line. You decide what this is. Then she closed the browser, shut down the terminal, and walked out. At 2:18 p.m., her phone rang. Unknown number. This time, she answered. Ms. Cole? Who's this? You sent a file to my office. The voice was cautious, measured. I didn't send anything. Then I must have received it by mistake. Pause. But if you ever want to talk, I'm listening. She hung up. Not because she was rude, because she'd already said enough. That evening, a black SUV parked at the corner of her block. No one stepped out. No one rang the bell. But it stayed for 2 hours. Then left. 10 minutes later, a text came through. We suggest you stop. She forwarded it to the 3 inboxes. Didn't respond. Didn't flinch. Because stopping now meant everything they did would be buried again. And she'd already spent too long underground. She updated the document on her laptop. Titled it, Case Record Final. It began. They called me a thief. They buried the camera. They rewrote the logs. They erased my alibi. And they watched me like a criminal. Then listed every date. Every time. Every name. Every time someone crossed a line and called it policy. She printed the file. Signed it. Slipped it into a padded envelope. And mailed it to the office of the Inspector General. No lawyer. No media tour. Just truth, in paper form. And in the morning, they would have to decide. Was she lying? Or were they? The letter from the Inspector General arrived 12 days later. Plain envelope. No logo. Nia opened it in silence. Inside, a single-page acknowledgement. We have received your materials and opened a preliminary inquiry. Please do not contact our office. We will reach out if necessary. No case number. No timeline. No name. She folded it. Filed it under unanswered. That same week, a story appeared on a local news blog. Headline: Whistleblower alleges internal theft cover-up at airport terminal. No names. No photos. Just quotes from the documents she'd sent. Anonymous, but detailed and real. Her phone rang twice that day. Once from a restricted number. Once from a name she hadn't seen in months. She didn't pick up either. The daycare called. Said Kaya's scholarship application had been mysteriously approved. Full coverage. No explanation. Nia thanked them, then hung up. She knew it wasn't generosity. It was damage control. Quiet. Strategic. They were closing ranks. Pretending she hadn't shaken the wall. But she had. And they felt it. Her bank unflagged her account. The airline never reinstated her. The union never called back. Her name never cleared in any official file. But the story was out. The documents were public. And her silence had ended. Not with shouting. Not with protest. But with documentation they couldn't ignore. One night, Kaya climbed into her lap and asked, Are the bad people gone? Nia thought for a long time. Then said, No, baby. Will they come back? Maybe. Kaya looked at her. But you'll still be here? Nia nodded. Always. She kissed her daughter's hair and pulled her close. Because that's what this was about. Not proving she was innocent, but making sure her child never had to fight the same war. And if she did, that the road was clearer. Because Nia had already walked it once. And left the map behind. Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories that inspire action and hope.